What's up, everybody? It is me, Riff-Raff. Shawn Riff-Raff is my name, actually. I had to change it. And this is the Elevation Podcast. I'm happy everybody is joining us today. This is officially Love Month. This is the month when we'll bring a whole bunch of couples together to talk to us really about love, about marriage, about relationships, about all of that cool stuff. Couples that I trust, couple that I've known to be thorough and to be able to give us some good advice and just some good talk. We can have some real talk, some real things happening. So I'm excited about what's about to happen. I'm excited about the couple I have here. It's going to be really, really cool. And I hope that we have some fun and they don't argue because this. But what we'll learn, hopefully we'll learn that that this is a natural part of who we are as individuals, and that making a commitment to someone and loving someone for the long term is quite a bit different than our perception may be. So I'm ready. I am ready for this. I am ready for today. I am ready. This is the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff. Let's go. What up, everybody? This is Shawn Riff-Raff, and this is the Elevation Podcast right here on www.shawnriffraff.com. And I am sitting here with good friends of mine, with ministers Mike and Bonnie Carr. What is up, you guys?
Hey, how you doing, son?
Everything's good, man.
Good.
Everything's
thanks.
really good. I am still like alive and well.
Good to know. Very good to know.
There are some people who do not have that same testimony.
Amen.
They either woke up dead or they didn't wake up at all. Depends on how you think about it.
Right.
Okay. They either died in their sleep or they woke up dead. It all depends on who you.
Okay.
Well said.
I don't know. You could have woke up dead. I don't know how that works. How are you guys?
Great.
We're doing good.
Good. I first want to ask you the same thing I ask you. I ask every person every week. This time is a little bit different. This is the first time that I've ever had a couple on, and that hopefully this works, because if it doesn't, I have this planned out all month. But. The first thing I just want to hear both of your stories individually. Then I want to talk about them collectively. But I really want to hear your story individually. Where did you come from? We'll start with Bonnie.
Yes.
We'll start with Mike.
Okay.
I changed it
Okay.
All right. Let's do it.
because she's gonna have everybody angry by the time she finishes. We're gonna start with Minister Mike. And then we're going to go to her. And if y'all angry, don't hang up on me. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Tell me about yourself, Mike. Where are you from? What brings you here? What? Give me the short version.
Okay.
Because we only got an hour, Mike.
Okay, that's right.
You should have started with me.
Okay. I'm from D.C.
Okay.
I moved to Baltimore at the age of 5.
Okay.
A family of 5. I'm a social worker. I love working with children and families. I had some counseling experience in the school system. Worked at a group home in Baltimore
Okay.
for teenage males. I have a master's degree in social work, so I'm not just out there acting crazy with the kids. But no, just want to try to make a difference in families and children's lives. I like to sing. I've been singing in church choir since I was a little kid. I tried to play a little basketball.
How tall are you?
I am really not that tall. I'm 6'5", but
Okay,
some of the kids I work
That's
with.
not tall. That's not tall at all.
No, because some of the kids, some of the kids I work
That's not tall at all. Just 6'5".
6'5", 6'4.5", 6'5". But some of the youth I work with that are like 14, 13, they're towering over me. I mean,
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, social work meaning you mostly work with youth?
Well, I work with families as well as youth, so it's children and families. But I've probably had a lot of experience with working with kids, young kids.
Oh, that's what's up. So, Minister Bonnie.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. All right. Tell me your story. Where are you from? How did we get here?
Well, I'm originally from Connecticut.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yes. Waterbury, Connecticut. H2O berry, as they call it.
Corny, no.
Wow.
I know, right?
First of
But
all,
I'm from.
First of all, let's set some boundaries on this show.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, let's go. I'm sorry.
But yeah, no, I'm originally from Waterbury, Connecticut.
Okay.
And I relocated from Connecticut in 1992. And I moved in with my aunt, my mother's younger sister, here in Maryland. And I've always said I wanted to relocate to Maryland. So I did. It was a big jump for me.
Okay.
And then I got a government job.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
Amen.
she helped me, my aunt did. She helped me get a government job. So I've been here since 1992. Yes. And then, we'll get into that when I got the job. So
Okay.
that's how I met
Oh.
him at the job.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Okay.
at
So
DC
let's
Child and Family Services.
Yeah. Let's start there
yeah,
then.
so-
How did you guys meet? What's the story? What's the love story? How did you guys meet?
We met at the agency. No one knew anything. Well, actually, I asked my aunt about him.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Are you any relation?" Because Carr,
Right,
that's my aunt's
right.
last name.
Oh,
by
okay.
marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
So she was like, "No." She's like, "Oh yeah, Brian Michael Carr." She was like, "Yeah, he's nice. He's a
Okay.
nice young man." You know, she told me which ones to stay away from.
I'm sure she did.
Yeah, and then he's tall, so I would see him over the cubicles. I was actually his assistant,
Oh, okay.
his social service assistant.
Okay.
That was my position at DC Child and Family Center when it was on H Street.
Wow.
We had
Yeah.
lunch, and then you
Yeah,
put something
so-
in my
Oh.
coffee, and then I woke up with a ring on my finger. Like, how did this happen? Wait a minute, HR. No.
Yeah, and it's funny how I would go out with him when he had to go into homes and stuff, like to remove children or
Right.
investigate. And that scared me because me coming from Connecticut and then, predominantly black area down here. And so in the area we went into, he used to get lost on purpose. So he could talk to me more.
You're not
I
supposed
figured
to.
it out, Shawn. I figured it out. I'm like, he knows how to get back where he's going. So, so that's how we met at the agency.
They used to get lost on purpose.
Yes, out in the field.
How cute is that?
Oh, she figured me out. Sean.
So, when is the point that Mike?
Yes.
When is the point where you said she is the one?
Probably when I got tired of the dating scene, so to speak. Kind of reminded me that she doesn't like this, don't hear this, but it kind of reminded me of my mother. Certain strong elements, a nice balance, old school training, home training.
It is true that it is true that a man does look for qualities in his mother when looking for a mate
Yes, I agree.
or looking for a wife.
Yes, somebody with substance, and that's what I saw in my wife here. Substance. Not, putting anybody else down, but I'm just saying that's what I saw in her.
What about you? What was your point where? Because I feel like every woman is at a point where when is this dude gonna ask me? Because
Oh,
That's it.
about getting
The
married? You're
the
saying?
clock.
Well, he used to say to me, what was that? He used to say, "You better be ready. You better be ready."
Yeah, yeah.
He forgot so many years ago. But yeah, he used to
I
say, "You
just
better
had
be
a
ready." I was like, "What is he talking about? Better be ready." Right. So I guess, me relocating and, and I didn't, I was single coming into Maryland. So it wasn't like I had someone back in Connecticut or anything
Right,
like that.
right.
So, but it just, it just happened.
Right.
It just I can't even say pressuring him or or anything like that. And then it just happened. So I don't know. It just didn't.
How
It
long
just
ago was
happened
this?
so.
How long ago? How long ago did you get married? How many years you guys were married?
26
We'll
years.
be married 26. It'll be 27 June.
Whew.
Yeah.
June 12th.
Yeah.
27. Yeah. Woo!
I have no hair.
Oh.
The proof is in the pudding.
Keep it real.
What I noticed about you guys, Bonnie, you're really, really in the ministry. How did you, what drives you? How did you get into ministry? While both of you are ministers, I find that, Mike, your ministry is more so the support of your wife,
Yes.
which I think is really, really amazing, because that makes a really, really cool team.
Yes.
Because sometimes when two people are trying to do the same thing,
Sure.
you can see them. Not that it's not possible, because it is, but you can see them competing.
Yeah.
But you are one of the most humble guys I've ever met. So tell me about ministry as for you, Bonnie. What pushed you to it, and what drove you into the ministry. Into the ministry?
Well, I knew I had a calling in my life, and I was running for a long time.
What's that like? Really, that was you was doing.
So yeah, and so it was years into our marriage that when I accepted my calling into ministry, and and Mike knew that I had gifts, and so it wasn't like a surprise for him or anything. And then the gifts were just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So then the church that I was with, when I accepted my calling there, so because it's training and wondering what you're not wondering what your gifts are, but trying to understand your gifts. And so I can't
You were trying
here. But yeah, but I was at a church when I was when I did my trial sermon.
Okay.
And
Was it early 2000? Or I can't remember, 1990.
yeah, I don't know why I can't blank, but yeah, and I did my trial sermon and everything, and then I was still in training at that particular church, and then the Lord just moved me to because of I was being wasn't able to use my gifts at this particular church. So, because I have a prophetic and, the speaking in tongues, so they, kind of look at you strange. So the Lord said it's time to move. So yeah, and then as my ministry was growing, the Lord was working on me. And then, years later, I got, Bonnie Carr Ministries. So I guess you'll talk about that whenever you get a chance. But
well, here's the chance. I've been to both of your conferences, and you do a women's conference. You wrote. Where's your book? It's here. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I'll put that right here.
okay.
There. Hold up. Move that. Bang. All right.
Nice.
Tell me about your book. Tell me about your book. Where did it come from? How did you come about?
The book is called And Now I See. What are you hiding under your makeup? The book came about, I published it in 2016. But actually, when I started writing, I didn't know it was going to be a book because I thought I was writing a sermon.
Right.
And then I was writing, and where it was going, I was like, "Well, Lord, this is not a sermon. This is talking about myself."
Right.
And so that's what it is. The Lord just had me writing about how I was hiding under my makeup with depression, low self-esteem, not able to have children, which we adopted 3 children. Dealing with anxiety. Feeling inadequate, just all of that, being bullied. I was bullied in school.
Right.
So I shared my story from how I grew up and then about the bullying, low self-esteem issues because, as you see, I'm petite, and I used to get teased a lot about how skinny I was, and just the really hurtful words hurt, and that's what I put into. I get emotional when I talk about it, but it's and you can still I still have little triggers sometimes, even though I'm older. But I guess because like I said, words hurt, and so the Lord had me write the book, and also there's an exercise at the end of the book, so you take a self-assessment of yourself. Yeah, and then the book, and then next thing I know, Lord had me doing women's conferences to minister to women, the hurt, broken, and with low self-esteem issues, all issues. We all have issues,
Right.
But it's time the Lord said it's time to unmask and take off the makeup. Okay. So, and I have a section in my book that talks about how I apply my makeup now with biblical scriptures. So, and a lot of women and men that have read the book, they were like, wow, I know I don't wear makeup, but some of the stuff that's in your book, I dealt with the same thing.
Wow.
And then some women didn't even know, like from childhood, when they purchased my book, they didn't even know that I dealt with all of that because I held it in. But I thank God for a mother and a father, and then my mother always told me that I was beautiful.
Right.
And don't worry about what other people say, because she grew up slim herself.
Right.
She's deceased now, but she grew up slim herself, and then she had 5 babies and gained weight. But she knew how I felt,
Right.
With that.
Tell me, let's talk a little bit about. I want to talk about, because when we talk about relationships, we talk about marriage. That's a good segue for me to go in. Do you find, so when you guys first got married, were you cognizant of the depth of everything going on with you, or is that something you found out within your marriage, as far as depression, as far as all of those self-esteem issues or whatever? Is that something that you came into the marriage with, or that you solved before marriage?
Came in. I was hiding under my makeup with it.
Right. So how did coming into marriage affect the marriage? Coming into marriage with those type, with that type of, for lack of better terms, I'm going to say baggage. How does coming into marriage with that type of baggage affect marriage?
It can be a challenge, because I know with my personality and the gifts of help, I wanted to say assess, and that's probably what I did. I constantly assessed her. Right. So I was trying to rescue and save her in certain regards, and so it brought about conflict because it was resistance. Don't like, for example, she's very gifted and discerning with discernment. So the friends that I would try to put in her path, she's not that way. It has to evolve more naturally. And I was trying to force her to have different girlfriends that were, because I'm in social work, so I know a lot of females. And she was like, no. So it was causing some conflict. And then me bringing out or highlighting certain shortcomings, if you would, about her. So she would say, oh, Mr. Perfect, you think you got your master's degree. So it would stir up some conflict, but I was trying to help, but then it would make me feel like you don't appreciate what I'm trying to do for you. So conflict,
Yeah, and then he knew, because I had shared with him in reference to the bullying and then the low self-esteem, different stuff, but so he would, not that I don't think he was making it up, but he would say how beautiful I look, like every time I put on something, or give me compliments. And a lot of men, I've heard from different women, that their husbands don't give them compliments. So they're like, wow, you're lucky. You have a man that tells you, you're beautiful, you look nice, and stop worrying about them, and I love you for you, and and stuff like that. Because I used to say, oh, I wish I was bigger. You need to be with somebody else that's big. He's like, no, that's not.
Right.
So he. And it would irritate him, like if I would say, oh, I don't look, and we would get into it because he's like, why do you keep putting yourself down, and stuff like that, because I carried it for so long,
right,
until the Lord, deliverance is available, where I just let the stuff go,
right,
so it
did. In being married, but I hope that I can get everybody out that to understand the depth of it. So in marriage, what have you guys found Well, I can ask the question. How y'all answer it? How y'all answer it? What have you guys found to be the hardest thing about in 24 years? 24, right?
26.
26. Sorry, in 26 years. Give them their 2 years. In 26 years, what do you find the most difficult about being married? I'm gonna ask both. What's the most difficult and what's the most rewarding? And actually, that could be the same thing.
Difficult is finding time because of the 3 children. Now they're getting older.
Right.
To, start back dating again like we used to. And it gets frustrating. And then we talked about this because I'm like, Mike, we need some time for ourselves because everything, I was getting overwhelmed.
Right.
Because everything was the kids. And, and when you have children with issues,
Right.
Disability, it gets kind of hard because like I said, he wears 2 hats. He's the dad and he's a social worker. So, he's trying to rescue everybody and the kids. And then sometimes I felt like, well, what about me?
Right.
And I had to let him know, what about me? Because everything was, you're just worrying about the kids. And I'm sitting over here, I'm just keeping it real.
Right.
And we had to talk about that because, I'm like, okay.
The suitcases were packed.
So,
like, wait a minute.
and he's like, I'm right behind you.
You can't leave without me.
So that's the difficult part about the, is finding time and just doing it,
Right.
And like I said, now they're older, so now we can be like, oh, we'll be right back in 2 hours or an hour, whatever, stuff like that. So.
And for me, if I could interject, the difficulty was, no, you're not doing it right. Hearing it, accepting it, acknowledging it, and being honest, even though I thought I was getting it right, you know, in terms of the juggling act and making sure everybody's good, but no, you're neglecting me, I had to hear that and not be defensive about it, but still at the same time look at myself in the mirror and say, you dropped the ball.
Right.
So yeah, that was a challenge, or one of the challenges.
Yeah. So you mentioned kids. So earlier you said you adopted your children.
Yeah.
That has to be a story in and of itself about adopting 3 children, and sort of raising adopted children. So first off, how did adoption come into the picture?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, I know a friend of ours actually approached us and had said that the Lord had said to her, that was Marsha, about us looking into adoption. And so I was like, oh no, I'm like, the Lord gonna bless me, open my womb, all that stuff. And I was like, everything. So then we talked about it, and then we looked into it, and it was just like a smooth process. So I was like, okay, so we prayed on it, and everything. So, and then we knew the.
You dreamt about it too, the boys. Remember you had a dream?
Oh yeah, I had a dream in reference to the baby and stuff like that, but I didn't know how it was coming.
Right.
So so we went through the process with the foster care, and then we eventually adopted.
Okay.
So, and it was James. We didn't get him until he was 2.
Okay.
And then Michael was a baby.
Okay.
So,
But the story behind Michael, well, when we were going through the licensing process, we were preparing for one.
Right.
And then the social worker said, are you sitting there? And we were like, what do you mean?
The mother's pregnant and, and would you like that child when the baby's born to keep them together?
He said, guess what his name is?
So we was like, okay. And then the worker that had us going through the process, she was like, you're not gonna believe it, but their last name is Carr.
Wow.
So they already
First
had their
name
last
was
name
Michael.
is Carr. And then when Michael was born, I remember getting the call at work, and it was like, he's here, and guess what his name is? And he was like, what? Michael Carr. I said, you gotta be kidding me.
Wow.
So James was placed with us first, then Michael came at 10 days old.
Wow.
So I had two babies because James was still in Pampers.
Okay.
So we had James, in the Pampers, and Michael with the hollering and the bottles and all
Fun.
that.
Fun.
Stuff.
Yes.
So it's not like you had James for 2 years and Michael
Right.
came along.
Mhm.
It was
Right.
like you got them both,
Both
at the same time.
It was November.
So you got James in the middle of
January.
that 2-year-old
Yeah, he
the
just-
phase.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Yeah. Yes.
And it's really they call them terrible twos, but it's almost like the terrible 2.5, 2.5
Yeah.
threes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not really the terrible. It's like right at the end of twos, going
Right.
into 3.
Right. Yeah. And then later, tonight came. Yeah, because they was like, we want a sister. We want a sister. We want a
I
sister.
said, just pray about it. Just
Yeah,
pray.
just
I didn't
pray.
know they were really praying. I'm like,
Right.
Oh.
And the next thing I know, we ended
A
up
crying
getting.
little
Oh,
girl.
she was a crying somebody.
Oh, really?
Yes, we we got her at 11 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was 11 months. Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
she hollered all the time. You look at her, and she starts.
But if I picked her up, she would.
Oh,
start
she was
crying,
fine
yeah.
with Mike.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
my goodness! I was like, what? I'm a female. Wait a minute.
Yes, so
And
that's my
Daddy's
pudding.
girl.
That's my pudding.
Wow.
Yes.
So yeah, they
Is-
got their
is-
sister.
Is adoption? Do you find different? I mean, do you find differences in the adoption struggle and you see in like in dealing with the children? Is it a different sort of struggle? The fact that they're adopted, or is it like sons are sons? You know what I mean?
I mean, the only thing I would highlight is the identity developmental stage. At that point, of course, wanting to know who you are, or how do you get this texture of hair or complexion, or those kind of where did I come from?
Right.
That's a challenge. And again, we know it's a biblical principle, so we never, it was never taboo, and we kept secrets,
Right.
So we told them very early on.
Right.
So that's that piece of the challenge, which is understandable. We knew it would come, and we're trying to help them get through that.
Yeah, like as they get older, they're smaller. They don't.
Right.
Then now when they get older, it's like, I'm light and I got this kind of hair. You don't have that kind of hair.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but James and Michael, they are siblings. So.
So do they desire to know who they are, or their biologicals? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Now that he's 18.
He's
Right.
kind of, my oldest one is initiating it a little bit more.
Yes.
But of course, his younger sibling follows suit very quickly.
Yeah, because at
we're-
first he wasn't.
Yeah.
With Michael he wasn't. But now that he's 16, it's like I want to know where do I come from.
Right.
So, yeah.
So we're preparing for that phase. But
Yeah.
again, we're letting them know it's normal. It's not a big deal. We just have to understand your fantasy that you've kind of put up.
Picture,
It may not end that way. You're happy.
Right.
It may not be a happy ending, but as long as we do it together prayerfully, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
You got social worker just all in you. Just
I told you to wear two hats. So yeah, so that's where we are, and like I share, James is like, just be prepared, because sometimes when you open it up, the case, sometimes they may not want to meet you,
right.
or they could be deceased.
Right.
So you have to.
Well, you don't know what's going to come out
Right.
the case.
But I would say a blessing in all of this, in terms of the marriage, the enemy didn't have his way. It wasn't a situation where we started blaming each other, because we didn't have, the Lord didn't allow us. I mean, we were fine because we went through all of the medical.
Yeah, that's in my
procedures.
book.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So,
and I was angry at that. I was angry because I couldn't, because I'm around people. My sister got pregnant before me, going to baby showers and, stuff like that would depress me and everything.
And we
I
didn't
was
have
like,
an answer.
well, Lord, why? What's going
Yeah,
on
we
with
had
me?
no
What's
answer.
going on? And
But we know from a biblical standpoint, and the Lord had already spoken to my wife about it, it was ordained because he chose us.
Right.
And so that was a
these
blessing.
3 children,
Yeah.
not 1, 2, 3.
Father, Son, and
The
Holy
Holy
Ghost.
We were like, I was good with the 2. Then
Put a whole
start
dynamic.
all over again.
Yes.
So you've got kids. What is? So I think that one of the things that I find that people, especially younger people that aren't married yet, they have this thought of this happily ever after. You always shaking your head.
No fighting.
They have this thought of this happily ever after. How hard is this?
You mean
Hard.
marriage or
Marriage.
children?
Hard.
Oh.
Marriage
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
all of that.
it's
Hard. It's my
It's-
sign. Hard. Extremely hard.
Oh, wait a minute. No. It's hard. I mean, because you're dealing with you get to know each other's personalities. Like things really come out when you because everybody's like, oh, Mike's so calm, he's so quiet, he's this, and I'm like, okay.
Wait a minute.
No, he's a good man. But I'm just saying some things,
Yeah,
when he speaks, he speaks. Everybody listens. So, but it is hard. But we just keep the communication open. It's there's times where I'm like, I'm out of here, and he's like, I'm behind you. I'm going to. Who's getting out the door first? I'm like,
My
I
basketball
can't do this.
boxing
We're gonna take care of the kids because we leave.
Who's that right?
You 18
They
now?
gonna come get us right. We're out the door. We are out.
Oh my goodness.
It's just it was rough. But our first couple of years was kind of rough.
Really?
Which is to be expected, I think. In most
It was-
I mean, they say that the first. I think it's the first year. The first year is the hard. Is like the first
After that-
5 years
after
is
that
the
little
hard.
honeymoon.
The first 5 years, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they're talking about business or marriage. It's either 3 years
Right.
or 5 years. One of them.
right.
I think
But
it's
yeah,
three.
it is.
I think it's the
Yeah,
first.
it
Once you
is.
get past the
Yeah.
first
Right,
3 years,
right.
Yeah.
you kind of
Pretty
get yourself
smooth,
into
Yeah.
nice little groove.
into a groove. And looking at marriage, if it's something out here that advice that you would have to the young people, if there's somebody just got married yesterday, or planning on getting married tomorrow, what is it advice that you would have to them for them?
Have fun, appreciate each other. I mean, I don't want to sound churchy, but I'm saying tomorrow isn't promised. All we can focus on is today. Tomorrow has enough troubles of its own, so just love and respect each other. I mean, you know how we easily take each other for granted.
Yeah.
So just have fun, just enjoy each other. Don't worry about, because people are always gonna have something to say. Like I used to tease a couple of my coworkers.
Right.
They get married and they say, "When you gonna have kids?
Kids.
Then you have kids. When you have another child?" So just kind of keep them outside of your marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Keep
have
people out.
God in your marriage, and communication is big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, communication is big, because I know sometimes you can. I felt myself at one time shut down, just shutting down, and and that's not good. But he like I say, by him being a social worker, he knows it's like she's going through whatever and stuff. But just keep the communication open.
Have good reflexes, the grits in the front.
Oh yeah,
No, it's just a joke. That was a joke.
So, what does it mean when you say communication? Because I think that sometimes people say communication and they mean talk, and they literally mean communication as if communication is just talk more.
Yeah.
And sometimes talking more is not exactly what you mean by communication. It's mean,
Yeah.
talk. What you talk about actually matters just as much as how much you talk.
Right.
But that was my 2 cents. But what is what is when you say communication, what do you mean?
If something's on your mind, that's just like when I had to talk with my husband about what about me. He wouldn't have known if I just shut down and didn't say anything, or had
Right.
an attitude walking around, and stuff like that.
Right.
So just keep that. If something's going on in your marriage and you feel like, this we gotta talk.
Right.
So just keep that communication open, because he won't know.
Right.
Or she,
just
or
being
he,
attentive.
just
and
yeah.
Just being there sometimes. You don't really have to always say anything verbally. Just
But
attentiveness
he's,
and being there,
like you said,
supporting.
but the communication is just keep it open. Like what's going on,
Listening.
express your feelings. You know, if something he did or said or whatever, or you feel something's going wrong down the road, then communicate about it. Don't don't go outside telling this one and that one and all that stuff. Resolve it amongst each other,
Right.
you know, and stuff. But that's what I mean by communicate, because I just was like, look, this is what's going on and how I'm feeling,
Right.
you know.
And men, definitely, for men, learn to share, be open. You know, some kind of guys try to play this macho role, and it's no big deal. But no, if I'm hurt or offended or feeling some kind of way, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Right. That was gonna be my next thing, but you gotta think of another one. If you got, you gotta think of another. But if if you had just advice to young people, young wives, what is something you could say to a young wife that would stop her from future headaches?
Lord. You have to have a relationship with the Lord, prayer, and this you know, just oh my goodness.
Yeah, with the prayer.
Yes.
Sense of humor.
Pray. Just you know, work together. You know, just be open, you know, minded, and young marriages, you know, don't tell everybody your business, what's going on in your marriage or bedroom or whatever. You know, unless you got a close girlfriend or something. But that's not even sometimes good either.
Right.
But just like I said, communication is the key. What am I trying to say? Because if it's a young person just getting married or they're young, just have faith that everything's going to work out. But if it doesn't, you know, just seek counseling. There's a lot of things, you know, don't throw in a towel right away, because a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Because things can work out. If it's, you know, meant to work out, God doesn't want you to have divorce. But there's certain things, you know, that for instance, domestic violence, that you don't want to stay in that type of relationship.
Unhealthy.
And, unhealthy, toxic relationship. If you feel if your marriage is getting toxic, it's time to go, you know. But I'm trying to think, is there anything else?
Trying to stay unified, like you said, just being careful of the company you keep. Try to use wisdom in terms of married couples that seem to be.
You already said something about men, but I want you to say something else, because you jumped over in my question.
I'm sorry.
So I'm asking my question again. So now you got to think, because you didn't jump in my question. But no, you know, so a young man got married, taking him, you know, after the honeymoon. What would you say to, you know, what good bit of advice would you have to a young man after the honeymoon? You know, you actually got to start the actual marriage part.
I would advise any men, young or old, just to try to develop transparency as best you can. I mean, again, I know a lot of men are taught not to cry, not to share your feelings, and, you know, put up that front of that wall. But I would definitely advise them, just try to be transparent. Try to follow, obviously, other couples if you can, or men out there that have been married, like in the old days when you saw men married in families like 40, 50 years. My father happened to be one of those people, my grandfather. Also, try to learn.
My parents are like that too. My mother,
Yeah.
you know, my mother didn't fail to remind me today that you know, they've been married for 46 years.
Wow.
Right.
No,
Wow.
am I lying? 44 years.
Nice.
Wow.
Still.
Yes.
44 years in March.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
you
pretty
know.
good. And another key is understanding your roles, you know, and I think that's what they did so well back in the day. Everybody, not trying to sound like a ancient, but it kept it harmoniously and cohesive.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have a quarterback and a receiver.
Exactly.
You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
So
Thank you.
you can't. I don't even watch sports.
Okay.
That was good. My team just lost, so be careful with the receivers. 49ers, oh boy, still crying.
But you gotta, just because two people are on the same team don't mean they do the same thing. Sometimes one person plays one position, one person plays the other one. That doesn't mean that one is more or less
Yes,
important.
yes.
I think sometimes we have this really. Well, it's a really stupid debate that we have about who makes more money.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, really, this is a dumb debate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Real dumb.
If we're working together and we're,
Yes,
we're getting the
same
bills
pot.
paid,
Yes.
you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
It doesn't matter who makes more,
Exactly.
or maybe one doesn't make and one has the job and one does something different. And it's like, we don't understand that not everybody is a quarterback. Somebody is the receiver, and the receiver is the one really that make the touchdowns. The quarterback may be you know what I'm saying?
You
Like,
need each other.
yeah,
Bottom
you-
line,
yeah.
you need each other to make it work.
So didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But I did. I want to have a quick just thought with you guys. I want to compare what the marriage, the wedding, versus the actual marriage. And like a lot of people prepare so much
Yeah.
for the wedding,
Exactly.
but don't prepare themselves
Yes.
for
Well
the
said.
marriage.
Yes.
What things, knowing that y'all probably didn't prepare for the marriage like you wish you would have, because everybody says that.
Yeah.
So, what things would you have? Could you teach me or teach us about preparing for the marriage? What should I do to prepare for marriage?
I would seek counseling. I would definitely seek counseling. I would even before I went premarital counseling. Thank you. And even before counseling, I would be prayerful together, me and my future spouse, and make sure, is this something we really want to do? Just have a heart to heart, offline or whatever you want, however you want to phrase it, because you'll know. Sometimes I believe there's some signs there, but the emotion gets the better of you both sometimes, so you may see the sign and just dismiss it because of the emotion. So I would start there first, have that heart to heart, then graduate to the premarital counseling, and then as you plan the wedding, try to understand this is ceremonial. This is somewhat, I don't want to say superficial, but my saying is I'm always concerned with after the I
What's
do,
gonna
the I
what's gonna
versus
happen
all of
after
that show.
the big.
Yeah.
Some people go way out. The big wedding and the spending all this money and stuff. Okay. After you say I do,
That's when it begins. That's when the marriage begins.
Right.
So,
That's when it begins. It's all. It's not the beautiful gown and the gifts, all that stuff.
because if you're more concerned about what outside friends or family are saying about the ceremony, to me that's skewed and off somewhat, because I'm saying that hopefully they're concerned about after the ceremonial piece.
Right.
So just kind of perspectives and kind of keeping it where it's supposed to be, where it belongs.
Right.
If that makes sense.
When you're done with the ritual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You're
exactly.
correct. You're correct.
So okay, so let's say somebody's been married for 10 years. Y'all been married for 26, so let's go back.
Okay.
26, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's go back 16.
Yeah.
How do you keep the fire and the sparks flying in the marriage? Let's say after 10 years. So let's not talk to somebody who just got married. Let's say somebody's been married for years and years less than you guys.
Just
How do you keep the sparks flying?
Like keep dating each other. Have a date night. Particular. Well, sometimes you can have a date night, but then sometimes some schedule or whatever, and just keep dating each other, and try to do getaways.
Yes, we have a getaway coming up. We have a getaway. Check. Look, I got that one right.
Get that back. Look. What about me?
I would say
do
have
spontaneous stuff.
Yep, spontaneity.
Yeah.
I would say have a flashback. Continue to have flashbacks. Continue to remember what it was that brought you guys together. I mean, because sometimes we forget. We because of all of the life stressors and other elements of just life. But try to have a flashback and have it more frequently than not.
That's beautiful. I'm flashing back. Or what's next? So what like Ronnie, I know you've got some, like what is the next thing you're getting into?
Well, I have my lipstick line, BCM Cosmetics. Yep, lipstick. I'm starting out with lipstick.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I'm
You got
starting out.
that's
with,
over up there.
Is it? Where?
Oh, right there. We'll zoom
right
in, but
here.
we're not.
Oh, okay. BCM Cosmetics.
Oh wow.
And you can purchase this on my website, www.bonniecarministries.com.
Wait a minute. I gotta put that up there. Hold up. We're gonna put it up there in a second. Hold up. Okay. And that's
So that's my.
how did you get into the makeup thing? Is it all a part of the core brand of Bonnie
Yes,
Carr? Okay.
yes.
And I do the
Yes.
business thing. It's just it's all in my brain. It's all
Yes.
it's all part of the core Bonnie Carr Ministries brand. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it basically the cosmetic line came from my book, and when you purchase my book and read my book, and I talk about putting on makeup with biblical scriptures. So the most important part to me is speaking life. So that's where the lipstick comes from, because you put the lipsticks on your lips, so you speak life out your mouth. So that's why I started with the lipstick first.
Right.
So, but I've always wanted to have a cosmetic line, and I've had the vision. The Lord gave me the vision some years ago, but it just now came to pass. So He said it's time now. So, and I'm glad He didn't, have me rush into it, but it was on His time when I started the BCM cosmetic line. So that's where I'm at right now, and doing my conferences and planning to do a conference out of state.
Oh really?
Yes, and
We're at
in Connecticut from my hometown.
in your hometown.
Yes, I'm
In
trying
the
to get that.
hometown of
Yes,
Connecticut.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I'm still gonna have my conference that I usually do yearly. This will be the third one, and all the proceeds go to the women in need in Charles County.
Oh really?
My county in Charles County, yes. And we, Bonnie Carr Ministries, I also network with the Department of Social Services for the families.
Wow.
And also CAP, which is Center for Abuse Persons. So that's where we donate the money to that organization and other organizations too. So someone asked me, how do I make my money back? I'm like, the proceeds, that's what the Lord wants me to do. It goes into ministry to bless others.
So that's so on the horizon you've got coming up you're just building basically.
Yes.
And so you got a lot of stuff. So basically so you continuing to promote the book, I would assume.
Yes.
And then you've got 2 conferences this year promoting the Jeez, what do you don't? What do you?
And then I'm
let's go
back in
backwards.
school,
What don't you
working
do?
on my master's. I'm back in school working on my master's.
Oh wow.
Yes, in Christian counseling and.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot, but the Lord is giving me the strength.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff that.
That's wild. That's
that
wild.
He showed me, and it's starting to come into play.
Don't you love it when that happens? Like
So, yeah.
I always found that understanding the Lord's plan is better than the one that you dream of yourself. So many people running from the Lord's, running from what the calling the Lord has for their life, not knowing that you are who you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you're built in it. And you,
Yeah.
What you running for?
you can run, but you kind of. You are who you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like and He built you specifically so that you would it would be for you. Which is such a wonderful thing. Okay, so.
And I also do women workshops too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's part of the spiritual makeover. what are you hiding under your makeup? So I've done workshops as well.
Wow. That's crazy. Now I want to do something else. On the Elevation podcast, I always do this, right? So at the end of the, when we start to come to the end, hold up.
You're not gonna rap.
You want us to rap? Okay, Mike, you're spitting on me.
These two.
That's 26 years.
These two. So, all right. So we've got some gifts here.
What?
Wow.
One says
Oh, my
B on it.
Nice.
This B for me.
you
Oh,
did.
One
okay.
says M on it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Do we open them now?
We got to
or
open them
wait?
for the people.
Oh,
The
for the
people have to
people.
see. The
Okay,
people
okay,
have to
let's-
see.
Let's
Ladies-
see.
ladies
Is this
first.
his birthday gift? His birthday was Sunday.
yeah.
No.
If you both get birthday
Ooh,
gifts.
my color.
Oh, nice.
My color. Yes. I
So-
like pink.
Nice.
So
Yes.
if you flip this one over to the back. Oh no, just leave it like this.
Oh, leave it like this.
It
Oh.
says the Elevation Podcast honors the love of Mr. and Mrs. Carr on the back of
wow,
his.
that
Bless
is
your
so
heart. Yeah,
nice.
isn't that
Oh my
nice?
goodness. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Sean.
Very
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah.
Very
yeah.
So
nice.
we did it
Yes,
custom
it's
for you.
cute.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Yes. It's my favorite color.
So we have to wear this when we do
Yeah.
our getaway.
Okay.
Send me the pictures
Yep.
of the shirt. I don't want to see nothing else from the getaway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Man, listen, I thank you guys so much for coming
You're
and
welcome.
sharing
You're so
with us,
welcome. For having
and
us.
just
Hope we help someone.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring on people who I think that have a story that people can relate to.
Yes.
And then on top of all that, I've got the young people that follow me, and while we're out here and we're all looking for love, we're all looking for companionship long term. Well, most of us, some of us are not, but let's say
Majority. yeah.
majority of people are looking for love, companionship, and I think that these days we have sort of got lost in the world of doing whatever we feel.
Right. Right.
And doing whatever we feel oftentimes leads us to loneliness. And but understanding that this is a process.
Yes.
It's a time you never quite. It's not ever quite finised. It's an ongoing
That's
thing
right.
for better and worse, and definitely worse, and sometimes be more worse than better.
Right.
Richer and for poor.
But thank y'all very much for coming. Thank you for hanging out for me
you.
with
Thank
this
you.
for this
So
hour,
appreciate
and
it.
I really do appreciate you guys and everything you guys you're doing, and just all your support of what I do,
Bless
and I hope we get you guys back. I've got so many other things, particularly bring you back, Bonnie, and it's like I got so many other themes for the rest of the year. So that'll be completely wonderful.
Okay.
Awesome. This is the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff. Thank you guys for hanging with us. We will be next week. We're going to be here with Pastor Kimani and co-pastor Rachel Anna Gilmer. It's going to be fun, I think. I love them. Thank y'all very much. See y'all later. Peace.